Stories are very important. This is going to be kind of like a story. So what is your full name, Mr. Finney?
Edwin, E-D-W-I-N, Mall, M-A-L-L, Finney, F-I-N-N-E-Y.
And where and when were you born?
I was born in May 12th, 1926 in Kansas City, Missouri.
Uh-huh. Somewhere near Chicago?
Yes, I think so.
Uh-huh.
I want to say Fort Sheridan. I think there's a Fort Sheridan that may have been there. It may not be an army camp now, but I think it might have been there. And I think it's Fort Sheridan.
Do you remember some of your instructors during the?
Not too much.
Some of the events that happened that were significant during the training?
Well, the only problem is because I don't have a killer instinct, and they're trying to teach me to kill people, and they said, well, what's going to happen to you? I said, I'm going to get killed. So
they send you to the chaplain, the sergeant?
yes, they say, go see the chaplain. My training sergeants, they were always very, very concerned. They were very, very fine men. They were very good examples to a young man because of they were high character. They fortunately were men of very high character. They were treated us respectfully.
So did the chaplain help them decide that you'd be better as a medic? Is that?
I guess so. I'm not certain. It seemed that they actually needed medics, so there was no problem. They never put any obstacles. That when they saw that I was somebody who would go and take care of somebody that was injured, they were glad that I was there to do it.
Yeah.
If there was any body around that I could work with, they sent me to work with. So on the job training, well, because there were people coming in injured,
Yeah.
and they needed people. And some people, I could deal with that. I couldn't deal with killing someone, but I could deal with the blood, the injury, and stuff like that.
This interview with Reverend Dan Wright. Reverend Dan Wright, right?
Rondo, South Carolina. Beautiful day in the Marine Hospital. I was over there, but no one told me what my problem was. They just they had some guys down there in New Guinea was telling us that we were everything but a child of God, but we didn't let that bother us.
Everything but a what?
Being a child of God. They were telling us that we was everything but a child of God. We wasn't.
Oh, a child of God.
That's right.
Oh my
We
God.
was anything else. We could be anything else. But whenever the high brass stores got hold to that, they put a stop to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we had a project called Tokyo Rose come over and tell us all kind of.
What was Tokyo Rose telling you, to desert the army or something?
Yeah, disguise us, He was this and he was that and he was the other thing, but he wasn't nothing good.
Yeah, this is Tokyo Rose speaking over the loudspeakers.
With somebody say,
was that in New Guinea and Philippines?
That was down in New Guinea.
New Guinea.
We didn't. I think the General MacArthur probably stopped all.
So, where and when were you born, Mr. Barksdale?
Gray Court, South Carolina, August 31st, 1919.
1990.
From the late 70s until 2 years ago, 2013, I think. Dad met with POWs from 17B every year for a reunion. It was always in early May because that's when they were liberated from the camp. This gentleman is Bob Watson, who Dad stayed in close contact with throughout the years. This is the gentleman who was wounded so badly on the plane that he was unable to jump from the plane and parachute out. So Dad and one of the other guys on the plane put Bob's parachute on him and told him to pull his ripcord when he could no longer hear the engines, and threw him out of the plane over Germany. And he was picked up and taken to a hospital in Germany, and about a month later ended up in the same barracks with Dad in Stalag 17B. He lived in New Jersey and would visit us every year on his way back from Florida. And he was a really nice guy.
He was very, he visited because he was so appreciative of your father.
Right. Bob wrote Dad a letter one time and told him that all the wonderful things that had happened in his life were due to the fact that Dad had saved his life so that those wonderful things could happen.
And your dad was the last one to parachute off. He made sure everybody got off the plane first.
Yeah, Dad made sure everybody got off the plane.
And then when you got down on the ground, it sounded like Tom was kind of in charge, helped out.
Yeah, he was it.
Oh, okay. So that's another reason they put
Yeah.
him in charge.
This is Pappy. That's
Pappy.
what everybody
You're Ruth Walters?
Yeah, Walzer.
Walzer. W-L-Z-E-R. And where and when were you born?
Oh, I was born in a town called Germantown, which is just north of Philadelphia.
And when was that? When? When? What year were you born?
What year? 1921. My mother, my brother, and I. Because we were all in the service at the same time.
Really? How wonderful. Your parents were in the service also? Your brothers, they were in the service too? They were in the service too? Your parents?
Well, my mother and I went in at the same time.
Your mother and you did? That's wonderful.
And my father was already in.
Your father was already there?
He was in the Navy.
And you went in because of the Pearl Harbor? Or?
Well, because we were at war and they asked for help and I was going to give them all I had.
Good for you. Thank you. And so your father was a naval a serviceman. I mean, he was that was his service. How long was your mother in the service?
Well, she was in until they broke and had everybody re-enlisted so that we could be part of the Army.
Okay.
But
So
other
she was-
than that, we're the same. But when it came, every time they re-enlisted, you had to pass a physical.
Sure.
And she couldn't pass.
What did you specialize in? They gave you some specialized training?
Well, yes, I got all that training out in Des Moines, Iowa.
And you get specialized training? Did you get to be,
Well,
what did you do?
just normal training for a whack. I was sent to Washington, D.C. because they were opening up a new regiment for teaching the women how to man 40 and 60 millimeter guns.
Goodness.
But we spent about a year doing that. And finally the inspection came. And they weren't off the post 5 minutes when we were told no woman would man a gun. So look where we are today.
Yeah. So what did you end up doing in the Army? What did you end up doing? What was your...
Well, I was a mechanic.
A mechanic?
I was a driver.
So you had to get training for that?
No, it was just in me.
Oh, okay. Good.
And I worked in warehouses. I went anywhere they needed somebody. Because I joined the service to help.
These wartime experiences affect your life, being in the Army during the war. How did that affect your
It
life?
taught me be on time. And the people that live here don't know what it is.
Okay.
It's like you're real important if you're not on time.
So it's discipline. They taught you discipline.
Right.
Yeah. So what are some other life lessons you learned from your military service, life, besides discipline?
Let's see.
Well, discipline is very important. That's a very
being
important.
on time was the important thing.
Yeah. So how did that military service impact your feelings about war and the military in general? How do you feel about war and the military in general?
I wish there wasn't any.
Uh-huh.
Why we can't all get along, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
But evidently we can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so what message would you like to leave for future generations? For future generations, what lessons would you like to leave for future generations?
What do you mean? What did I what?
Lessons. What would you like for young people to learn from this interview? To have discipline, to be on time,
That's the main thing. Be on time.
and try not to get into fights. Try to have peace if possible.
Just like everybody.
To like everybody.
There isn't anybody I don't like.
Oh, that's a wonderful lesson. That's a wonderful. So you don't have enemies. You don't have any enemies. It sounds like
I don't have what?
enemies. Enemies. You don't have enemies.
Enemies? No.
Good for you.
I love everybody.
You love everybody. Well, that's a wonderful, wonderful lesson for future generations. Yeah.
Okay. So, can I have your name, sir? Your whole name?
Lewis, Lewis,
Okay.
and my middle name is Marshall
Okay.
Lee, L-E-E, Senior.
Senior.
Yeah.
Okay. So, can you tell me where and when you were born?
Yes, ma'am, I can. I was born June the 20th, 1919. I was born in a little town. Well, it wasn't no town. I lived on out in the country. The country was, the town was named Weston, W-S-T-O-N, Weston, Texas. It was a great western town at that time. They carried them old long arm shooters and all that. And we lived about 2 or 3 miles out of town on a little creek called Honey Creek, right beside the creek. And later on, they moved our house. Of course, I wasn't there. Up the road a little way to get away from that creek. But I've been in that creek a many time afterward. My granddaddy lived up the north there, of course, started off with the Trinity River and come down a little creek down a dry dock, waiting to go in a dry dock for the ships that was in dry dock. Now, the dry dock was loaded with 3 ships. 3 ships, the Pennsylvania, battleship Pennsylvania, and 2 cruiser destroyers.
Mm-hmm.
And this ship was outside the dry dock, the Helena, which this guy was on. There was a ship outboard of him.
Mm-hmm.
And the Japs had thrown a torpedo through the Ogallala into the Helena, the cruiser, and they were at the dock sinking. And we had orders from the admiral, our work crew, go pull our ship down the dock so you can pull it there again, that man. We put our ship in the meantime, we were under fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were firing on us. And so anyway, we didn't get to flood the dry dock on account of they dropped a bomb on one of the destroyers that was at the bow. The battleship right there was USS Pennsylvania, big battleship, or beautiful. I have no idea. Can't you picture how it look over right across the bay over there and see all them ships coming over.
This is Ron. We're getting through down here.
So you couldn't imagine it.
Appreciate you.
But it was just one of them days of hell. God was with me, because I'm telling you, there was guns, shots like that, I was right at my feet.
Yeah, you're right. God was with you.
It was God was with us, there's no doubt about it. Oh, it was one hell of a day. One hell of a day. They want me to see that book, I want to look at it.
I don't blame
But
you.
I know,
You saw it.
yeah, all them people that wrote that book, they didn't see that. They picked it up somewhere. I seen it retired. I seen the Arizona blow up, and Oklahoma was right there with it. And that first thing I know, there was these 5 guys that was over at our boathouse that night before. And we never seen them again. Now, I can't figure out why they never got all the boys out of the cook gas ship. That's sad.
Yes, it is.
I guess the parents set aside to let them stay in there. But they was all for good, that was a good Navy. That was a good, I was brought here unconsciously. I didn't know it when I came here. I was here for a year before I ever knew what I was at, right in this room. And I began to get my mind back to myself. Everything comes back to me. And I was, never came back when I was a child. So I got a gentleman, he takes notes and things. He came in here one day and he got talking to me. I broke down and told him about Pearl Harbor. I don't know why I did it, how he did it, what, but I told him about it.
And that was the first time?
First time I ever told him.
And how did you feel when you were doing all
I feel
that?
kind of relieved.
Oh, good. One thing we would like to know, because this is going to be in the Library of Congress, people are going to be able to see it, future generations. And do you have something to tell those future generations?
Like I said, I'm a God-loving man. The only thing I invite him to do is live right, and everything else will come out right.
Paul Lantis Lockman.
Paul Lantis Lockman.
Lantis.
Okay. Well, when and where were you born?
Well, matter of record, Martinsburg, Pennsylvania.
Go ahead. And who are your parents?
Charles
And your mother?
Maggie?
Maggie. Margaret.
Margaret.
That's what I was thinking of.
Okay.
Not Maggie.
The technical is just a grade.
Just the
well, you
type
know
of
more about it than I
sergeant,
do,
right?
Right.
Yeah. So you parachuted into Normandy at D-Day.
D-Day, yes.
Wow.
One,
Well,
one combat jump.
thank you, sir. 101, 101st. That is wonderful. That is quite a service. Tell me about parachuting into Germany. What was that? Normandy. What was that like? Was it scary?
Well, there's anytime guns are firing at you, it's scary.
Yes.
You know, it's just to describe, you know, how do you feel about it or not, it is scary.
Sure it is.
You know,
You have to feel the fear and do it anyway, right?
that's right. That's right. You know, you can't help help yourself there. You know.
Sure, that's just human nature.
You're right.
Did you get shot at while you were parachuting or right after you parachuted?
Well, it was right after, as you were coming down. You'd already jumped, you were airborne. You were already being shot at.
Even while you're in the air?
In the air, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you see some of your comrades, your friends getting hit?
Oh yeah, yes. Yeah. It's just, some of them were dead winter. They landed on the ground. Yeah.
Already dead or wounded,
Yes,
badly wounded?
Yes, yeah. They knew we were coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were prepared for, you know.
So as soon as you hit the ground, you had to run and find cover.
Oh yeah, you had to rubber, you know, yeah. If your gun wasn't loaded, but you had to make sure that it was loaded and ready to fire. You know, you never knew, you know, in a situation like that, what it's gonna, you're called for, you should naturally as you were coming down, you're being shot at. You got to return the fire.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
What kind of weapon did you have?
You had the M1.
You had the M1.
That's what you had at that time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was with the 29th. When you escorted Patton and his tanks, when was that, Dad? This was after you were in the hospital in England. You went back in England. You went back to back into mainland Europe, into France, with the 29th.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow, what a courageous man you are. Went back to 29th, and that was Patton's?
Infantry. No, that was the
infantry.
And they were, well, you were charged with helping Patton to cover the tanks while they waited for fuel.
Yeah.
Wow. Was that hard? Was it dangerous? Must sound dangerous. You covering the tanks.
Well, the only time
Working force is where you need on the landmine.
if you were in battle with the tanks, you know, because as long as you were with them handling and fuel or something like it's
You had to guard the tanks.
we guarded the tanks,
Okay.
but until they were set to go. And once they were set to go, they went.
The tanks went.
They went.
And then you followed them as infantry?
We tried to follow.
Tried to. They were going fast, though. Patton had them going fast.
Yes.
And you got as far as Himalayan Forest? Hurricane Forest. Hurricane Forest. That was while you were following Patton's tanks. You were in Hurricane Forest, is that right?
Well, we caught up to them. Yeah.
Caught up to them there. Because they were in a battle, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, in Hurricane Forest, did you get wounded again?
You know.
Oh, good.
Where did you Wasn't it the Hurricane Forest where you leaned on a landmine?
No, I came back by plane.
Came back
I
by
came back and landed at,
train, Fort Dix.
yeah.
It's a Bronze Star, Purple Heart, American Defense Medal. This is the European campaign. I believe this is the Good Conduct. American campaign, and World War II.
And we're going to start out today by asking you where you were born.
Matter of fact, I was born 12 miles down the road, in Hampton,
Really?
Hampton County, yes, ma'am.
Really? Huh. You were too. Hampton, South Carolina.
Yeah. And then I was raised at this big city of Grays of South Carolina, which is about 12 miles south of Hampton.
Oh. So you kind of stayed in the hood, huh?
I stayed in the neighborhood.
That sounds like it. All right, tell me about your parents. Who were they and what were they doing? What were they?
My daddy was Solomon Tyndall. My mother was Lillian Gertrude Davis before she was married. And before she married my daddy, she was Tyndall then. I had wonderful parents.
Okay.
Overseas, we went overseas and was going to England when we left New York. Well, anyhow, it come up a big storm. We had to detour through the North Atlantic around the storm. So then that's when they decided to make the invasion in France. So instead of going to England, they sent us to France to make the invasion at Normandy. And I went in with the second wave to hit that beach.
Wow. So you were right on top of things there.
And then we went all the way from France across Germany and Czechoslovakia, and we met up with the Germans again in out on the Inns River right out of Berlin. And then they pulled us back and let the Russians take it, which was always a regret for them.
Tell us more about that invasion, that D-Day. You were in D2 Day, second wave.
That was one of the worst days of my life.
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
That's the day that you numb, you don't even know you're in the world, you're so scared. When I stepped off that landing barge, I stepped in one of them washouts like on the beach, went up to my chin. I stayed wet there for 3 days. So then we finally, after we established a beachhead, then it had what they call Camp Lucky Strike. We got there, the Seabees had a tent there where we could take a shower and change clothes. That was a good shower.
What was it like seeing, you saw people shot around you and everything? What was that like?
That's what I'm telling you, you were so scared, you were so numb, you didn't know what was going on around you. Because you didn't know whether you was going to be the next one or not.
Wow.
Now I saw, well, there was 255 of us in our company. And whenever we finished up, there was 55 of us left.
Goodness.
Okay. It's like
combat. Tell you the story of what happened when he went back to me to get wounded. A lot of people think it's a joke, but this was the day after Christmas. And the lieutenant thought it'd be smart. He said, dig in today, guys. So we started at about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. By 8 o'clock at night, we dug 5 foxholes. And digging foxholes is no fun, particularly in frozen ground. So I was standing there with my assistant gunner, Kildusky, and I said, we said the words, but anyway, I said, I'm not going to take this, I'm going to dig a slit trench. Well, a slit trench would be about from the height to that. This is enough to cover your body. A foxhole is about 6 or 7 feet deep.
And so where were you at this time? Were you digging?
We were in a town called Arpadny, Belgium.
In Belgium?
Mm-hmm. And so I said, I'm not digging any foxhole tonight. I'm headed for tonight. I'll dig a slit trench. So Kildusky says, I'll do the same. I'll put the gun in the middle and get some sleep. So we had this, I was just finishing my slit trench when the Germans opened fire. They came from everywhere, artillery fire. And they used, I can't think of the fire name now, but they used that and you could see it coming. I was standing right next to the foxhole, and all of a sudden, one of them, either a mortar or artillery shell, exploded right beside me and hit me in the right leg. I called for a medic, and he came and treated my leg and left me there. I was laying in the slit trench. I lay there for about 2 hours. I didn't know how bad the leg was at all, but he had me under morphine, so it didn't hurt me at all. And the one thing that hurt me was, as a machine gun or a mortar gun, you also carry a 45 on a belt. And when you took care of me, pulled it off and threw it away. I threw it off where I couldn't reach it. And so I kept getting worried, and then, like my mother would say, I never stop worrying. And so I crawled out of the slit trench, and I crawled back by the sergeant. My sergeant was named McGann. He was from Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said to Max, I'll see you back at home in Massachusetts by the summertime. I said, that's when they'll let you out, but I'll be there in a couple of weeks. He says, yeah, sure. He'll be right back up with us. So I walked down a road that was about 3 or 4 miles, and then I got picked up by a jeep and taken to battalion aid.
Did the other 2 brothers have to go to Montfort Point also?
No, they both went to Paris Island.
Okay.
But when I went in, they wasn't allowing blacks to go in to Paris Island or San Diego.
Yes.
So we had to build a boot camp in North Carolina.
So were you part of the building?
Yes, I was. I was the 131st Black Marine drafted in the whole United States. All the rest came from the Navy into the Marine Corps. I taught guys with 5 stripes how to drill and carry a weapon.
Because they were sailors.
And they only shine shoes and baked and cooked and clean quarters and
Civilians on Guam. Tell us about that. 'Cause when you got there, what kind of shape was civilians in? Because I understand they got treated pretty badly.
yeah. Some of it I don't even want to think about. But
How they were treated by the Japanese.
Japanese and Americans too.
Really?
Yeah,
Some Americans treated them
yeah,
bad.
they did. I don't think I could have lived the way some of them fellas lived. 'Cause he found, now I knew segregation was wrong, but I didn't know people could be so mean. I really did, because you see, now I knew the difference because I could see.
Yeah.
But the people up there roughing seemed like it was different. And I never went to but one person's house and they showed any prevalence of,
Bias.
yeah. Everybody, if they was eating dinner or lunch or whatever, come on, Simon.
You talking about white or black?
Yeah.
White and black. So
Yeah.
racism was worse in the military and over these islands than here.
Yeah, right.
Here in South.
This is an interview with Mr. James Haynes in Walterboro, South Carolina.
Huh?
I'm just saying, in Walterboro, South Carolina, at the Veterans Victory House. So you had told me that, your brother told me you were born in Dorchester County, South Carolina, is that right?
Dorchester County.
Okay.
It wasn't white and black, wasn't it? Yeah, this was the segregated time. Your time was you all was together. Yeah.
Oh, but did you work together with them?
Huh?
Did you work together with them?
We were segregated. They work in their field, we work in our field.
Oh, okay.
We had the only white people in there was the highest thing was the captain and all, but the rest was black. Black, well, they had black officers, black. But we were segregated. When you were in, it wasn't like that.
Or did you get to spend any time with the French people?
Oh yeah. Well, we spent time because we were living in that area. We go out to theaters together, the church together and stuff. Yeah. French people are nice people too. Yeah, good folks. Yeah. Older. Yeah.
So did you do anything special when you weren't working?
No.
In the war, did you do anything special?
Over there? No. When you are, you're going past and go to clubs and things like that, just like you're doing home, just like the soldiers and things do here. Yeah, in the United States and any other place where they're stationed, go to clubs and things, over there is the same thing. Once the soldiers and people get together, have parties and stuff, Yeah. Yeah, but I remember the morning when the day when they say the war was over, you could see them planes up in the sky like flies, man. Yeah, the war was over, yeah. And everybody, yeah. So that was a pretty proud day, yeah. But the war was over. The day when I think I was telling Albert them about it, a prisoner had escaped. We had him, and he was. We was in an area, I don't know whether you know anything about Charleston?
I know what the Citadel,
area,
I know
where
what
the
that's
Citadel
like, yeah.
We was
quarters in an area around, like around the regular citadel, and these prisoners were there and one escaped. Of course, the war was over then. And they sent 3 us on patrol for them. And we did find him. He was at the fence of the wall, trying to find a way to get out. Had a little bag on him. And so we 3 men, both of them, asked him where he was going. He said, I'm going home.
Yeah.
I told him, well, that's not the right way to do it. I said, the war is over. I said,
Herbert M. Milligan Jr.
I need to ask you, when and where were you born?
I was born in Charleston, 1923.
Okay, and who were your parents and what did they do?
My mother's name was Mamie Tilly. My father's name was Herbert M. Sr. And they're all born in Charleston. Now, my mother's grandfather was a prince in Copenhagen, Denmark. He was a prince. So we come from royalty.
Oh my, good for you.
Well, the Japs would come over every night and bomb us. Every night they come over, the pilots would come flying over. And from where my wife was a big ammunition dump. And he hit that ammunition dump and it blew it up, busted all my eardrums up. I got eardrum, both ears are gone.
So you said you were working on the caves, you're blowing up the caves. Did anybody ever come out? Did anybody ever surrender?
Well, we got we got a lot of them out. We had some American Japanese in our outfit. They knew how to talk to them and tell them we were Army, not the Marines, and they come out, surrender. Now some of them listened to him and a lot of them didn't. So we had our hands full with them. Now, one more I want to say about this. We captured one of the high-ranking Japanese officers, real high officer. And he told my commanding officer it took 7 years to fortify that island. They done it by hand.
Oh my.
They had big machine shops all under the caves and everything. And he told me what was under the ground. And he said, he told my commanding officer, he graduated from the University of California. And he can speak good English as you and I.
Wow.
Well-educated man.
Did you see any wounded, any casualties?
Ma'am?
Did you see wounded casualties while you were there?
Oh, Lord, yes. I seen where a lot of Marines and all the beds where our men and all, a lot of cemeteries. We had a big cemetery on that island. A lot of men who died on that island. A lot.
Well, you know, having dug in for 7 years, that was hard, right?
Yeah, you know, this island here, Mount Sabachi, that's a big volcano. Then they had three small volcanoes on the island. And where our company was bivouacking, you know, we were living, there was a small volcano there, but there was a lot of volcano ash all over the ground. It was hot, real hot. I think that's why my people's all messed up. But if I put my duffel bag down tonight, the more I get in them, it's all white around the bottom of it.
From the ash. Now you say you got your feet messed up. You must have had friends, comrades, buddies?
Oh yeah. Yeah, one of them was killed. One of my good buddies was killed. Yeah.
And how did that affect you?
He went up to the cave and he was trying to talk to him,
Next thing you know, he fell. They shot him.
Oh.
They shot him, and he died.
So when you were off duty, was there anything to do for fun?
There ain't no off duty, Sonny. You on duty for 24 hours a day. When you over there, you don't have no time to yourself.
Where were you when the war ended?
Okinawa.
Okinawa.
That's when they dropped the 2 bombs.
And what were you going to do from Okinawa? What was your duty that you...
Well, after they dropped the 2nd bomb, we was on a troop trip going into Japan to make the big invasion. When we heard the word that the war was over. And they brought us back on the island, and they started processing us to come home. Well, being hurt in the service, as more or less you got 2 strikes against you. The reason I say that is a lot of times you go to the VA, you don't get the right doctors. And a lot of them don't understand. These young doctors, they don't understand what we went through with, because they never was there. And it's hard to explain to these doctors how you feel. A lot of them won't accept that. I don't know why. I don't know why. But it's wrong. But I'm fortunate I have a good doctor now that's really looking out after me, Dr. Henson. And he's really helped me. A lot of people don't even care what we've done. They can care less.
It's been a long time, so you have generations that... See, I was born during the war, and so was Ron, right?
Yeah.
So we knew about it, but every generation, as you go along, they're farther and farther away from it.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'll tell you, they do not do a good job in school teaching about World War II.
No, they
it's
don't.
like a page or 2 pages in the history book.
A lot of schools don't even teach history anymore. I don't understand why they did that. I used to join my history classes.
Yeah, me too.
I sure did.
Sue, where and when were you born?
1924, Kings Mountain, North Carolina.
Okay. And who were your parents and what did they do for a living?
Oh, my daddy was a businessman and my mother was a housekeeper.
How did you get on the Titania then, if you started out in the landing boats?
They just put you on there.
Okay. Well, tell me something about that.
Cargo ship, and that's about all I know. There's a list of all the
Okay.
awards for the landings that they did.
Good, good.
They sent off there, and then we come back and start hauling equipment in. Tanks and half tracks and stuff like that. That's that. We did that till we want ammunition, fuel, food, everything, cargo ship we could haul.
So you had been trained to do the landing boats, so did you do the landing boats?
Oh yeah, 100%.
100%.
Yes, ma'am.
So can you tell me about that?
Well, it's just like that Bougainville, we were unloading. We made it, put the Marines on the beach, and we were unloading equipment. And all of a sudden, the jet planes started coming in. Of course, they sat in the general quarters. So everybody stopped doing what they're doing and man your gun station. And we shut down 5 of them. Out of 24, we shut down 5 of them. And the same thing at Guam. Lady Luzon was mad about the suicide plane coming in on it all hours of the day. And then Lady in Luzon was like that. That's when the first suicide plane started, and Lady.
You learned life lessons from the military?
Pardon?
Life lessons.
Life?
Life lessons from the military.
I think so. I think so. I think it was not an adventure. But everybody was in there, I think, they grew up. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
I left home 16 years old and come back 27 years old. A grown man. And that's about all I can say. It's just one of those things. Some made it, some didn't. So,
And it seems like you remember those who didn't make it, right?
pardon?
You remember those who didn't make it.
Oh, yeah. You're there?
Now, how did being in the military, how did you feel about war and the military after?
Well, if it had to be done, do it. If it don't have to be done, don't do it.
Do you have a tissue? Now, this interview is going to go to the Library of Congress, and they're going to have it there so that young people can come and see what the war was about. So, is there anything that you would like to tell the young people?
I really don't know.
Give me your name, Sir Chief. Give me
Francis James Bowles, United States Navy, retired.
Okay.
I was born August 15th, I'm 1927.
Okay. And that was in James Island, South Carolina?
James Island, South Carolina.
Very close to Charleston.
Right.
Okay. Give out. I'd like to know, what message would you like to leave for future generations who will hear this interview or see it?
I just like to let them know we are all God's children. We are all God's children. I don't care whether you're pink, black, white, blue, or green. We are all God's children. I mean, our ancestors just come back